The wedding that never was. Welcome to Twisted Heartstrings. Hello everyone. Welcome back to Twisted Heartstrings. If you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Today, I'm sharing a story that will take you through love, betrayal, and the sweetest revenge. Comment below which city you're watching from so I can see how far this story reaches. Let's begin. The Perfect Life. My name is Elena Martinez, and 6 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. At 28 years old, I own the most successful wedding planning business in downtown Seattle. Dreams Come True Events wasn't just a business name. It was my promise to every bride who walked through my office door. I had spent 5 years building my reputation, working endless hours, turning ordinary venues into magical spaces where love stories came alive. But the most beautiful love story was supposed to be my own. Dylan Foster walked into my life 3 years ago at a charity gala. He was tall, handsome, with dark hair that fell perfectly across his forehead and a smile that could light up any room. He worked as an architect at his family's firm, Foster and Associates, one of the biggest names in commercial real estate on the West Coast. Everything about Dylan seemed perfect. His manners were impeccable. His family was wealthy and respected. He treated me like a queen. The proposal that started everything. Dylan proposed to me on a sunset cruise around Puget Sound. He got down on one knee as the sky turned pink and gold, holding a ring that sparkled brighter than the stars. "Elena," he said, his voice shaking with emotion, "you make every day feel like a dream. Will you marry me?" I said yes without hesitation. How could I not? This was the man who brought me coffee every morning, who supported my business dreams, who told me I was beautiful even when I was exhausted after working a 16-hour wedding day. This was my forever. Planning my own wedding became my greatest project. I had planned over 200 weddings for other people, but this one had to be perfect. I chose the Cathedral of St. James, a stunning historic church with stained glass windows that cast rainbow light across the marble floors. I selected a spring date, May 15th, when the cherry blossoms would be in full bloom. My guest list had 300 people. My dress was a custom creation by a designer I had worked with for years. Ivory silk with delicate lace that took 3 months to complete. The business partner and best friend. Veronica Walsh was my business partner and my best friend since college. We had started Dreams Come True events together in my tiny apartment, working from laptops and making cold calls to potential clients. Veronica handled the marketing and client relations while I focused on the creative design and execution. We were a perfect team, or so I thought. Veronica was also going to be my maid of honor. She had helped me choose my wedding dress, taste test dozens of cakes, and select the perfect flowers. We stayed up late planning every detail, drinking wine and laughing about how perfect everything would be. She seemed genuinely happy for me. Looking back now, I realize I was blind to the signs. I was too excited, too caught up in my own happiness to notice the way Veronica's smile never quite reached her eyes when she talked about my wedding. Too distracted to see how she always made excuses when Dylan offered to take us both out to dinner. Too trusting to question why she suddenly started dressing more elegantly and wearing expensive perfume we couldn't really afford. The rehearsal dinner warning. The rehearsal dinner was held 2 nights before the wedding at an upscale Italian restaurant overlooking the water. Dylan's parents had insisted on hosting it, and they spared no expense. The private dining room was decorated with white roses and candles. Everyone important in our lives was there. My parents, Dylan's family, our closest friends, the wedding party. That night, something felt off. Dylan seemed distracted during dinner. He kept checking his phone under the table, and when I asked him about it, he said it was just work stress. His father was putting pressure on him about a big project. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. I squeezed his hand and told him that after the wedding, we would take our honeymoon in Italy and forget about work for 2 whole weeks. But then I noticed something else. Veronica left the dinner early, claiming she had a headache and needed to rest before the big day. 20 minutes later, Dylan excused himself to take a phone call. He was gone for almost 30 minutes. When he came back, his face was flushed, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Is everything okay?" I asked him quietly. "Everything's perfect," he said, kissing my forehead. But his lips felt cold. My mother pulled me aside as we were leaving. She held both my hands and looked at me with concern in her eyes. "Mija," she said softly, "are you sure about this?" You seem stressed. I'm just nervous, Mama, I assured her. Every bride gets nervous before her wedding. She nodded but didn't look convinced. Just remember, it's never too late to change your mind if something doesn't feel right. I laughed it off. Change my mind. This was Dylan Foster, the man of my dreams. In 48 hours, I would be his wife. The wedding day morning. May 15th dawned bright and beautiful. The sun streamed through the windows of the bridal suite at the Four Seasons Hotel, where I was getting ready with my bridesmaids. The room was filled with champagne, laughter, and the sweet smell of roses. My hairstylist was creating an elegant updo while my makeup artist applied the final touches. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. I looked radiant, happy, complete. My wedding dress hung on the door, a vision of ivory perfection. In 3 hours, I would walk down the aisle of the Cathedral of St. James and become Mrs. Dylan Foster. Everything I had worked for, everything I had dreamed about, was finally coming true. My phone buzzed with a text message at 10:30 a.m. I assumed it was Dylan, probably sending me some sweet message about how he couldn't wait to see me. But when I picked up the phone, my heart stopped. The message was from Dylan's number, but it wasn't sweet. It wasn't loving. It was 3 words that shattered my world. I can't. I'm sorry. The note that changed everything. My hand started shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. I read the message again, certain I had misunderstood. But there was no misunderstanding. Dylan was calling off our wedding. Before I could respond, before I could even process what was happening, another message came through. This one was longer. Elena, I can't go through with this. I'm not ready for marriage. I need time to figure things out. I'm leaving town for a while. Please don't try to contact me. The note in your room explains everything. I'm sorry. The note in my room? What note? I rushed to the bedroom area of the suite, my bridesmaids calling after me in confusion. On the nightstand beside my overnight bag was a white envelope with my name written in Dylan's handwriting. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The letter inside was typed, cold and impersonal. Dear Elena, by the time you read this, you'll already know that I can't marry you today. This has nothing to do with you. You're an amazing woman, and you deserve someone who can give you their whole heart. But I can't be that person. I've been confused for a long time about what I really want. The pressure from my family to get married, to settle down, to continue the Foster legacy has been overwhelming. I thought marrying you would make me happy, would make everything fall into place. But I've realized I was wrong. I need to find myself, to figure out who I am outside of my family's expectations. I can't do that while being someone's husband. Please don't hate me. I hope someday you can understand and forgive me. Dylan. The letter fell from my hands. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. This couldn't be happening. This had to be some kind of nightmare. The humiliation. My best friend Sarah rushed to my side. Elena, what's wrong? What does it say? I couldn't speak. I just pointed at the letter on the floor. As Sarah read it, her face went pale with shock and then red with anger. That coward, she whispered. That absolute coward. The other bridesmaids gathered around, reading the note, gasping in disbelief. Someone started crying. Someone else started cursing Dylan's name. But I just stood there, frozen, unable to process what was happening. 300 people were gathering at the Cathedral of St. James right now. My parents had spent their savings on this wedding. The flowers had been delivered. The photographer was setting up. The string quartet was warming up. The cake, a 5-tier masterpiece covered in sugar flowers, was waiting in the reception hall. And the groom was gone. Facing the guests, my mother burst into the suite 20 minutes later, her face streaked with tears. She had already heard the news. Dylan's best man had received a similar message and had informed Dylan's parents, who had then told mine. We need to cancel, my mother said, wrapping me in her arms. We need to tell the guests. But I couldn't move. I couldn't think. I stood there in my half-done makeup and robe, staring at the wedding dress that I would never wear, unable to accept that this was really happening. My father came in next, his face hard with anger I had rarely seen. I'll handle everything, he said firmly. You don't need to worry about anything, Mija. Just stay here. But I shook my head. Some part of me, some stubborn, proud part, knew I couldn't hide in this hotel room. I had to face this. These people had come to celebrate my wedding. They deserved to hear the truth from me. I'll tell them, I said, my voice coming out stronger than I felt. I need to tell them. The cathedral confession. 30 minutes later, I stood at the entrance of the Cathedral of St. James in jeans and a simple sweater, my hair still half-styled, my makeup smudged from crying. The pews were filled with guests in their finest clothes, whispering to each other, confused about the delay. When I walked down the aisle, not in my wedding dress, but in street clothes, the whispers stopped. Everyone turned to look at me. I saw pity on some faces, confusion on others, and concern on the faces of those who loved me. I reached the altar where I was supposed to marry Dylan and turned to face the crowd. My voice shook as I spoke. Thank you all for coming today. I know you came here expecting to witness a wedding, but there won't be a wedding. Dylan has decided he can't marry me. He left this morning without any real explanation. I'm sorry you all came here for nothing. The reception is still paid for at the hotel, so please go enjoy the food and celebrate love, even if it's not mine. The cathedral erupted in shocked gasps and murmurs. Some people stood up as if to come comfort me, but I held up my hand. Please, I said, tears now streaming down my face. Please just go. I need to be alone. I turned and walked back down that aisle, the same aisle I was supposed to walk down as a bride, and left the cathedral. Behind me, I heard my mother calling my name, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. The truth revealed. I went back to the hotel suite and locked myself in. My bridesmaids tried to comfort me, but I sent them all away except for Sarah. She sat with me in silence as I stared at nothing, trying to understand how my perfect life had fallen apart in the span of an hour. That's when Sarah's phone rang. It was her boyfriend, Marcus, who had been a groomsman in the wedding party. Sarah answered, and I could hear the urgency in Marcus's voice even though I couldn't make out the words. Sarah's face went from concern to shock to absolutely furious as she listened. When she hung up, she looked at me with tears in her eyes. Elena, she said softly, there's something you need to know. Marcus just found out from one of Dylan's cousins. Dylan didn't leave because he needed to find himself. My heart was pounding. Then why? Sarah took a deep breath. He's been having an affair. For the past 6 months. That's why he called off the wedding. The room tilted. 6 months? Dylan had been cheating on me for half a year while we planned our wedding, while I chose flowers and tasted cakes and dreamed of our future. Who? The word came out as a whisper. Who is she? Sarah's face crumpled with sympathy and anger. Elena, I'm so sorry. It's Veronica. The double betrayal. Veronica, my business partner, my best friend, the woman who was supposed to stand beside me as my maid of honor, the woman I had trusted with everything. Suddenly, everything made sense. The late-night phone calls Dylan took, Veronica's strange behavior at the rehearsal dinner, the expensive clothes she'd been wearing lately that she claimed were from clearance sales, the way she always made excuses when I suggested the three of us spend time together. They had been together this whole time. While I was planning my wedding, they were planning my humiliation. Sarah showed me her phone. Marcus had sent screenshots of messages from Dylan's cousin, evidence that Dylan and Veronica had been seen together at restaurants in other cities, at hotels, always careful to be far from Seattle where someone might recognize them. The final message showed a photo taken that very morning, just hours before my wedding was supposed to start. Dylan and Veronica at the airport, boarding a flight to Mexico. Together. I felt something break inside me that went deeper than heartbreak. This was betrayal on a level I didn't know existed. Not just my fiancé, but my best friend. Not just my wedding, but my business partner. They hadn't just destroyed my personal life. They had destroyed everything. The aftermath begins. Over the next few days, as I lay in my childhood bedroom at my parents' house, unable to face my apartment or my office, more truth came out. Friends who had been too afraid to tell me before now came forward with their suspicions. Dylan and Veronica had been less careful than they thought. People had seen them. People had known. But the worst revelation came from my accountant. Veronica had been embezzling from our business. For months, she had been slowly draining our company accounts, transferring money to a private account. She had also been stealing our client list, copying our business plans, getting ready to start her own competing company with Dylan's financial backing. They hadn't just betrayed me personally. They had been systematically destroying my business, planning to leave me with nothing while they built their empire together. I sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of the wedding that never happened, my wedding dress hanging mockingly in the corner, and I felt something new replace the heartbreak and humiliation. Rage. Pure, cold, calculated rage. Dylan Foster and Veronica Walsh had tried to destroy me. They had humiliated me in front of 300 people. They had stolen from me. They had betrayed me in every way possible. But they had made one critical mistake. They had underestimated Elena Martinez. I had built my business from nothing. I had fought for every client, every success, every dollar. I had overcome obstacles that would have broken weaker people. And I would overcome this too. But I wouldn't just survive. I would make them pay. As I lay there in the darkness of my room, I began to plan. Not the kind of plan I usually made for beautiful weddings and happy celebrations. A different kind of plan entirely. Dylan and Veronica wanted to destroy me? Fine. I would show them what true destruction looked like. Rising from the ashes. Welcome back to Twisted Heartstrings. Welcome back to Twisted Heartstrings. If you missed part 1, go back and watch it first so you understand Elena's devastating story. Today, we continue with her journey of transformation and revenge. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment which city you're watching from. Let's dive back into the story. 6 months of darkness. 6 months passed like a blur of pain and survival. I spent the first month barely leaving my parents' house. My mother brought me food that I barely touched. My father sat with me in silence, his hand on my shoulder, letting me know I wasn't alone. But inside, I felt completely empty. Dreams come true events was falling apart. Without Veronica, who had handled all the client communication, and without me, who was too broken to design anything, we had to cancel multiple weddings. Each cancellation came with a refund we couldn't afford and angry clients who blamed us for ruining their special days. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had become the nightmare I had always worked so hard to prevent. The money Veronica stole, nearly $75,000, was gone. The police said they were investigating, but Veronica and Dylan had disappeared to Mexico and showed no signs of returning. My lawyer said I could sue, but lawsuits took time and money I didn't have. Social media was brutal. Someone had posted about my failed wedding, and it went viral locally. I became that wedding planner who got dumped at the altar. People I didn't know commented on my photos, some with sympathy, others with cruel jokes. I deleted all my social media accounts and tried to disappear from the world. But somewhere around week 8, something changed. The turning point. I was sitting in my childhood bedroom, staring at the wall, when my younger sister Maria came in. She was 24, fierce and protective, and she had been patient with my grief. But that day, her patience ran out. Enough, she said, pulling open the curtains and flooding the room with sunlight. Enough hiding. Enough crying. Enough letting them win. They already won, I said bitterly. They took everything. They took your money and your trust, Maria said firmly. But they didn't take your talent. They didn't take your strength. And they definitely didn't take your ability to fight back. She threw a newspaper onto my bed. It was open to the society section. There, in full color, was a photo of Dylan and Veronica at a charity gala in San Diego. They looked happy, glamorous, completely unbothered by what they had done to me. The caption read, "Power couple Dylan Foster and Veronica Walsh announce plans to launch Elegant Affairs, a luxury event planning company." My company. They were starting my company with my stolen money and my stolen ideas. Something inside me snapped. Not broke, but snapped into place. Maria was right. I had been hiding, wallowing, letting them destroy me while they built their empire on my ruins. That ended today. The decision to fight. I got out of bed for the first time in days and looked at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. My hair was unwashed, my eyes were hollow, and I had lost so much weight my clothes hung off my frame. But underneath the grief and pain, I could still see Elena Martinez. The woman who had built a successful business from nothing. The woman who had worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. The woman who never gave up. That woman was still in there. And she was angry. I took a shower, the first real one in weeks. I washed my hair, scrubbed my skin until it was pink, and stood under the hot water until I felt almost human again. Then I got dressed in real clothes, not pajamas, and went downstairs where my family was eating dinner. They all looked up in shock when I walked into the dining room. "I need your help," I told them. "I'm going to save my business, and I'm going to make them pay for what they did. But I can't do it alone." My father stood up and hugged me tightly. "Tell us what you need, Mija. We're with you." Rebuilding piece by piece. The next 3 months were the hardest work of my life. I moved back into my apartment. Even though every corner reminded me of Dylan, I went back to my office. Even though Veronica's empty desk felt like a wound that wouldn't heal. I started small. I reached out to every client I had ever worked with and apologized for the canceled weddings. Some hung up on me. Some yelled at me. But a few, a precious few, listened to my story and offered their support. One of those clients was Jennifer Park, a tech executive whose wedding I had planned 2 years earlier. She owned a successful startup and understood business challenges. "Elena," she said over coffee, "what you need is a complete rebrand. Dreams Come True events is associated with the scandal now. You need something new, something that shows you've moved forward." She was right. I couldn't save the old company, but I could build something new from its ashes. That's how Phoenix Celebrations was born. The name was symbolic. I was rising from the ashes of my old life, rebuilding myself into something stronger. I created a new website, new branding, and a new mission statement. Creating beautiful celebrations for life's most important moments, with integrity and heart. But starting over required money I didn't have. The business account was drained, and my personal savings had gone to refunding clients and covering operating costs during my breakdown. I was ready to take out loans I couldn't afford when something unexpected happened. The mysterious investor. I was working late at my office one evening in November, trying to figure out how to pay next month's rent, when someone knocked on my door. It was almost 9 p.m., and I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the frosted glass, I could see the silhouette of a tall man. My heart jumped with an irrational hope that it might be Dylan coming to apologize. But when I opened the door, I found a stranger. He was in his early 30s, with dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He wore an expensive suit and carried himself with quiet confidence. "Ms. Martinez?" he asked. "I'm Marcus Chun. I hope I'm not intruding. I have a business proposition for you." I should have been suspicious. I should have asked how he knew where to find me or what he wanted. But there was something in his direct gaze that made me trust him, at least enough to let him in. Marcus sat across from my desk and got straight to the point. "I've been following your story," he said. "What happened to you was criminal, and I think you deserve a chance to rebuild. I'd like to invest in Phoenix Celebrations." I stared at him. Why would you want to invest in a failed wedding planning company run by a woman who's famous for being dumped at the altar? A small smile crossed his face. "Because I don't see a failed company. I see a talented entrepreneur who got betrayed by people she trusted. And because I have my own reasons for wanting to see certain people fail." "What people?" "Dylan Foster and his family," Marcus said, and there was something cold in his voice. "The Fosters cost my family everything 5 years ago. They used fraud and manipulation to steal a major development project from my father's company. It destroyed him. He died of a heart attack 2 years ago, broken and bankrupt, while the Fosters celebrated their success." I sat back in my chair, processing this information. "You want revenge." "I want justice," Marcus corrected. "And I think we can help each other. You know Dylan. You know his patterns, his weaknesses. And I have the resources and business knowledge to bring down his family's empire. Together, we could expose what they really are." It should have scared me, this talk of revenge and takedowns. But instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Purpose. The partnership begins. Marcus and I spent the next several weeks planning. He invested $200,000 in Phoenix Celebrations, enough to cover all my debts, upgrade my office, and hire a small team. But more than money, he brought strategy. Marcus was brilliant. He had degrees in business and finance from Stanford, and he understood the corporate world in ways I never had. He showed me how the Foster family's real estate empire was built on shady deals and questionable practices. He had been collecting evidence for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. "Why now?" I asked him one evening as we worked late in my office. "Why not expose them years ago?" "Because revenge served cold is always sweeter," Marcus said. "And because I needed the right leverage. You, Elena, are that leverage. You're the human face of their cruelty. When people hear your story alongside the business fraud, it will be impossible for the Fosters to recover." As we worked together, I started to see Marcus as more than just a business partner. He was patient with my emotional moments, when grief would suddenly overwhelm me. He brought me coffee exactly how I liked it without asking. He made me laugh with dry humor when I thought I'd forgotten how. And he never pushed me beyond what I could handle. When I needed to cry, he handed me tissues and waited. When I needed space, he gave it to me. When I needed to vent about Dylan and Veronica, he listened without judgment. The transformation. With Marcus's investment and guidance, Phoenix Celebrations began to thrive. I hired 2 talented assistants, updated all my vendor contacts, and started booking clients again. Word spread that I was back in business, and slowly, my reputation began to rebuild. But it wasn't just my business that transformed. I transformed too. I joined a gym and started working out every morning, pushing my body until the physical pain drowned out the emotional pain. I gained back the weight I'd lost and added muscle. I felt strong for the first time in my life. I updated my wardrobe, replacing the soft, romantic clothes I used to wear with sleek, powerful outfits that made me feel like I could conquer the world. I changed my hairstyle, cutting off the long hair Dylan had loved and going for a shorter, edgier cut that felt like the new me. My sister Maria barely recognized me when she visited my office 3 months after Marcus's investment. "Elena," she breathed, looking at me with wide eyes. "You look incredible. You look like a CEO." "I am a CEO," I said, and I meant it. Phoenix Celebrations wasn't just rebuilding. It was thriving. The first strike. Marcus and I decided our first move would be subtle. We started spreading the word in wedding industry circles about Elegant Affairs, Dylan and Veronica's new company. But the word we spread wasn't positive. We created anonymous social media accounts that asked questions. Did you know Elegant Affairs owners stole their business plan from another company? And be careful hiring Elegant Affairs. Their founder embezzled from her previous partner. We didn't make direct accusations. We just planted seeds of doubt. And those seeds grew quickly. Potential clients started asking Dylan and Veronica uncomfortable questions. Vendors who had worked with me refused to work with them. Wedding venues started turning down their events. It was small but satisfying. Every blow we landed against their new company felt like a tiny piece of justice. But then something unexpected happened. The unexpected development. I was meeting with a potential client, a bride planning a summer wedding, when she mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "I was going to hire Elegant Affairs," she said, "but they're already booked for my date. Apparently, they're doing a huge celebrity wedding in June. Some tech billionaire's daughter. It's going to be the event of the year. A celebrity wedding. The kind of event that could make or break a company's reputation. If Dylan and Veronica successfully pulled off a high-profile wedding like that, all the damage Marcus and I had done would be erased. They would be launched into the upper echelon of event planning, untouchable." I told Marcus about it that evening. We were having dinner at a quiet restaurant, discussing strategy as we often did. "We need to find out more about this wedding," Marcus said, his mind already working. "If we can sabotage it, or better yet, expose them during it, we can destroy their reputation permanently." But then he said something that surprised me. "Elena, before we go further down this path, I need to ask you something. Is this really what you want? Revenge is a dark road. Once you start, it's hard to stop. Are you sure you want to tie your future to destroying them instead of just building your own success?" I thought about his question seriously. Part of me wanted to just focus on Phoenix Celebrations, forget about Dylan and Veronica, and move on with my life. But every time I thought about doing that, I remembered standing in the Cathedral of St. James, humiliated in front of 300 people. I remembered the months of depression and pain. I remembered how they had stolen from me without remorse. "They tried to destroy me," I said quietly. "They need to know that was a mistake." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, then let's finish what we started." Feelings begin to grow. As winter turned to spring, my relationship with Marcus changed. The long hours working together turned into dinners that weren't just about business. The strategic planning sessions turned into conversations about life, dreams, and pain. One evening in March, we were working late in my office when Marcus suddenly closed his laptop and looked at me seriously. "Elena, I need to be honest with you about something." My heart started beating faster. "What is it?" "When I first approached you, it was purely about revenge. I saw you as a tool to get back at the Fosters. But over these past months, working with you, seeing your strength and resilience, I've started to see you as much more than that." He paused, seeming uncertain for the first time since I'd met him. "I care about you, Elena, not as a business partner or an ally in revenge. As a person, as a woman I deeply admire and am starting to have real feelings for." I didn't know what to say. Part of me was thrilled. Marcus was handsome, brilliant, and had been there for me when I was at my lowest. But another part of me was terrified. How could I trust my feelings after what Dylan had done to me? Marcus, I said slowly, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can trust anyone romantically again. I'm not asking you to trust me completely right now, he said. I'm just asking you to let yourself feel something. To not shut down the possibility of happiness because of what one terrible person did to you. He reached across the desk and took my hand. His touch was warm, solid, real. Take your time, he said. I'm not going anywhere. The invitation. 2 weeks after that conversation, something happened that changed everything. An envelope arrived at Phoenix Celebrations with an embossed return address I recognized immediately, Foster & Associates. Inside was a formal letter on expensive stationery. It was from Dylan's mother, Patricia Foster. The letter explained that the Foster family was hosting a charity gala in May to raise money for children's hospitals. It was a major society event, and Patricia Foster wanted to hire Phoenix Celebrations to plan it. I read the letter 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding. After everything her son had done to me, Patricia Foster wanted to hire me? But as I read more carefully, I understood. Patricia didn't mention Dylan at all. The letter was purely professional, praising my work on past events and expressing confidence in my new company. I called Marcus immediately. It's a trap, was his first response. It has to be. Why would Dylan's mother hire you? Maybe she doesn't know, I suggested. Maybe Dylan never told his family the whole truth about why he called off the wedding. Maybe Patricia genuinely doesn't know about me and Dylan's history. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Or maybe it's an opportunity. If you plan their gala, you'll have access to the Foster family's inner circle. You'll be able to see their operation up close. And Elena. He paused significantly. There's something else you should know. I just found out who the tech billionaire's daughter getting married in June actually is. It's Catherine Wong, and her father wants the best wedding planner in Seattle. My heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you successfully plan the Foster family gala in May, you'll have the credentials and connections to compete for the Wong wedding. And if you get that wedding instead of Dylan and Veronica, you'll destroy their company before it even gets started. It was perfect. It was terrifying. It was exactly the kind of revenge I had been dreaming about. But it was also risky. Spending time around the Foster family, possibly seeing Dylan, would open old wounds. Could I handle that? Making the decision. I spent 3 days agonizing over the decision. I talked to my parents, my sister, my friend Sarah. Everyone had different advice. Some said to take the job and show the Fosters I was stronger than they thought. Others said to stay away, that no amount of revenge was worth my mental health. Finally, I sat down with Marcus at his apartment. He made me dinner, something simple and comforting, and we talked for hours. What does your gut tell you? He asked. My gut says I'm terrified, I admitted, but also that I'll regret it forever if I don't do this. I need to prove to myself that they didn't break me. I need to show them that Elena Martinez is not someone you can destroy and forget about. Marcus smiled. Then you have your answer. He stood up and pulled me to my feet. We were standing close, closer than we'd ever been, and I could feel the energy between us. Elena, he said softly, whatever you decide, whatever happens, I'm with you. Not just as a business partner, as someone who cares deeply about you. And then, slowly, giving me every chance to pull away, he kissed me. It was nothing like kissing Dylan had been. There was no calculation in it, no hidden agenda, just honest feeling, the connection between two people who had found each other in their darkness and were building something new together. When we pulled apart, I was breathless. I'm going to do it, I said. I'm going to plan the Foster Gala, and then I'm going to compete for the Wong wedding, and I'm going to win. Marcus grinned. That's my Elena. His Elena. Despite everything, despite all my fears and doubts, I liked how that sounded. The response. The next morning, I wrote a formal response to Patricia Foster accepting the job. I kept it professional, gave her my new pricing structure, which was significantly higher than my old rates, and suggested we meet to discuss the details. Her response came back within hours. She agreed to all my terms without negotiation and invited me to lunch at the Foster estate the following week. I hung up the phone and looked around my office at Phoenix Celebrations. 6 months ago, I had been broken, humiliated, barely able to get out of bed. Now I was planning an event for the family of the man who had destroyed me, competing for the biggest wedding of the year, and opening my heart to someone new. Dylan and Veronica thought they had won. They thought they had destroyed Elena Martinez and built their empire on her ruins. They had no idea what was coming. Love's perfect revenge. Welcome to the final chapter. Welcome back to Twisted Heartstrings. This is it, the final part of Elena's incredible journey. If you haven't watched parts 1 and 2, go back now because you need the full story to understand this amazing conclusion. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your city. Let's finish this story together. The Foster Estate. The Foster Estate sat on 5 acres of perfectly manicured grounds overlooking Puget Sound. As my car rolled up the long driveway lined with cherry blossom trees, I felt my stomach twist with nerves. The last time I had been here was for a family dinner 2 months before my wedding, when I had still believed I was going to become part of this family. Now I was here as a hired professional, planning an event for the people whose son had destroyed my life. Marcus had offered to come with me, but I knew this was something I needed to do alone. I needed to prove to myself that I could face the Fosters without falling apart. Patricia Foster met me at the door herself, not waiting for her housekeeper. She was in her early 60s, elegant in a cream cashmere sweater and pearls, her silver hair styled perfectly. Her smile was warm and genuine as she took both my hands.